May I have a roll call, please? Here. Here.
Here.
You all join in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Now we'll have a moment of silence. Right. The mission statement. The Newport Independent School District partners with families and the community to nurture, educate, and instill core values in all students to ensure they reach their fullest potential. All righty. Comments from the audience? Right. We have the minutes from August 23rd, August 30th, and the special meeting on September 13th. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes? All right, any questions, corrections, or concerns? If not, I need a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
It's been moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we have the treasurer.
Good evening. You have the August financial report and August paid invoice report for review. Does anyone have any questions?
Right. Is everybody good with the bank reconciliation statement? Paying of the bills? Were there any questions or concerns? Did anybody have any this month? Not. Motion to accept the bank reconciliation statement and file for audit and authority to pay the bills. It's been moved in second, all in favor?
The working budget is on the agenda tonight. There is a breakdown, like I gave you for the tentative budget. The breakdown is under the treasurer's report, and then the budget is underneath. But we can talk about that, I think.
And other items listed under the treasurer's report is information only. All right, we will move on to student learning and support service.
I will start off, if you have issues with faith at the high school, and I've been communicating with you all, when these issues arise, give you a quick update. We're going to be as a team, so I talked to Tim a little bit yesterday. We were all at the contingency student summit last week, and we haven't had a chance to sit down yet, put a plan together. The school is doing some things right now to try to prevent students from vaping and of course doing other things. One of the things that I noticed that they do, teachers assign to every restroom during passing times, kids go in and use it, they get flagged. Unfortunately, you can't watch them 24/7. They get out of class sometimes. They're not supposed to. So once we meet and discuss what we're going to do, I will give you all an update on what it is we plan to do at the school level to try to reduce some of these values. So that is on our radar. questions about that?
So I did notice that, before, when we had our no smoking policy, I think, what, HB one, they gave us that authority to make those, that, no smoking. So we also, updated that when vaping became an issue. We updated our policy to include vaping. And so it also, our policy also talks about signage, and that's what I don't know. Our signage include, vaping, no vaping language on the sign.
But to me, no smoking person comes out to me. So I would, if I say no smoking, that's vaping, anything else, then that's the way I do it.
Every time I,
Yeah, to me, that, I mean, anywhere, if I see no smoking, then, to me, that covers it all. I don't have to say vaping is included, again, that's just me personally.
when you think about vaping in students, will they interpret?
Well, if not, we will make sure they understand. I think they do, right now, in those conversations are being had, but we'll make sure we do that.
I've seen signs in restaurants or most of bars that say, no smoking, considered vaping, okay.
Is that right? Yeah, because they, I mean, some places do consider it, because it does, there's no smoking, law, what's, because secondhand smoke was dangerous. So,
For us, kids shouldn't have to,
That's
so
right.
they should be able to buy those, so that.
Right. they should be able to buy cigarettes.
Yeah, to come into school and
or alcohol.
they can drink.
My point is, we just want to be clear and make sure everybody understands the rules. We don't want to assume, because when you punish a child for being on the premises for vaping, and a parent says, well, that sign says no smoking, it doesn't say no vaping. How is my child to know? We have to deal with the reality of the environment we're in. And some parents are going to challenge it based on the signage or, what's my child told or something like that. I just want us to make sure that everybody knows that no smoking includes vaping,
Make sure that-
electronic cigarettes, all.
make sure that's understood.
So I think you have to be over 18 to buy.
Yes,
We ought to follow the general policy, anything that certain age requirement, if you're out of selling lottery tickets, it's anything that requires you to be over a certain age is probably not appropriate to have in school.
yes, I understand that, and it's very clear in our policy that it's not appropriate to.
You recall when we did that billboard, which was the word of vision, age,
That's
requirement, anything on that.
very good. Like I said, I just want us to make sure that the communication is clear. So when we come up with these consequences, that they understand why.
We'll make sure,
Very good.
and we'll share that with you, at our next meeting, what we're doing.
And we did send some.
Yeah, this was, the couple weeks ago, I think, we had, so we were trying to see exactly what.
Because there are illegal drugs in the vape.
That's another issue.
That's another. Right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the kids try things and don't know how the body's gonna respond to it. And these things, we have to understand the risk.
Yeah, because if you read, doesn't really have to happen. Too prolonged does something to your lungs. Causing health problems. So they could be just passing out because it affects your breathing. It impacts your lungs. You breathe on. So just imagine you're young, your lungs still are not fully developed, so to speak, and so their lungs are kind of naked to that stuff. You know what I mean? And so I just can't imagine that it's always got to be something based on what I read about vaping. It could just be the vaping alone that caused want us to make sure we're being proactive. Liability. Pretty serious. All right.
Get on it. Wanted to share with you all, we're making student attendance a major focus this year. Reason being, of course, we have to get our students to come to school. If we're going to have to, we have to learn. And if they're not here, then, it doesn't matter what we do, they're not going to learn anyway. So we have challenged these schools to do some things to get students to come to class. I know, I'm not sure if y'all have been at the intermediate early in the morning, they're playing music and out front, so sometimes I don't want to go there. So we're doing different things. And last month, if you looked into the report, we met our attendance goal for the month at the district. We've sent some things home at the high school, especially about the importance of kids being at school. Seniors, of course, have an attendance. They have to meet to participate in graduation, participate in dances, and those types of things. So we're doing everything we can to make sure students get to school. I'm going to ask Julie, once she does her report, to share some of the things that we're doing as a district to focus on student attendance this year and to make sure our kids are getting to school so we can help them learn. This afternoon, we hosted the NBA lunch meeting in the PD room. I thought it was a good turnout. I think we had about 25 people show up. We've been trying to plan this meeting all summer. They wanted to go out and have a meeting in one of the schools, but with summer school going on, students in the district, we couldn't work it out. So today was the day. So we had a nice discussion about some things that are going on as far as education and the workforce. So we had 4 people on a panel. So I thought it was a good day. And, Aaron was there as well. So Aaron, if you had any comments about today's lunch and then you want to share about it.
Yeah, thanks to Dennis Maines and Kim Fosterman for setting up the PD room. I'm not sure if anybody else is involved.
Melissa Hughes.
And Melissa. So yeah, it was set up nicely. Mr. Watts was on the panel, and he really represented our district well, I thought. He also solicited businesses for involvement in the high schools, specifically. Hopefully, some of these businesses will engage. It was a good discussion. So thanks to everybody for making that happen.
Good. I mean, they expressed an interest in lining up skills, in some of these businesses with what, with our students, what they're learning. Form a partnership so they can identify the needs and the skills that they need in their jobs and be able to work those skills and not just work them. So I know that's one of the goals, one of the things they had talked to me about. So.
Well, and that's one of the things we talked about today, because what I want to do, and I think I mentioned it in the past, I would love for every senior to be able to go out and do some kind of work-based learning.
Yes.
That way they can, if they think they want to go into this field, they can go out and actually work for a while and then get a real feel of, yes, I like to do this and this is where I want to go, or no, I don't like this job, so I better try something else. And the reason I feel that way is because I'm sure you know, and I know there are a lot of people who don't have a clue about what you want to do, and then you get into a major, you get a degree, and you don't even use that degree. I'm a perfect example. I got a marketing degree, and I've never even been in that field. So we all do that. We don't have a clue. We go to college and spend a whole lot of money in college on that, get that degree, and then decide to go another direction. So, I feel that we let seniors go out, get that learning, before they get into college, and I think that, so hopefully we can build those partnerships. We mentioned that today with a lot of the businesses, and we're gonna make that happen. I charged our new CCR coach at the high school with that, so he's gonna be working to put that in play. Any other questions on any of those? All right, tonight we're bringing back to you, I'm gonna ask you to approve the sub-pay increase and the attendance incentive that we discussed at our meeting a couple of weeks ago. And just a reminder, the sub increase will make us number one in our area as far as sub-pay. We were losing people to cut, they were number one, we talked about that meeting to, increase hours just for it. So by approving that tonight, that will put us number one. The attendance incentive, this will be a competition between schools, and this is for teacher attendance. The school with the highest attendance for each month will be awarded $500, and that's to be used on the team. Choose to, but it has to be teachers. We will also have the perfect attendance award each month for all staff. Anyone with perfect attendance, their name will go in a drawing, and we'll put one winner out, and then that would be that whole thing would be around $9,000 compared to $50,000 that we paid last year. So we'll be saving a lot of money in that. We hope that this will get we trying something. We would hope people just come because it's the thing to do, but unfortunately, I can give some incentive. So we'll see how that works. Last year it didn't work as well as we wanted it to. So that's why we're trying to change. And then we'll see how that works next year. Hopefully we can continue to do that. All right, and we do have a student board member. Is she coming in? Or that? So if you don't mind, come up to the front row there, please, ma'am. This is Abigail Rubright. And Abigail is a junior sport, so she's a little late tonight. She had a dance competition. So we talked, I guess about a month ago, and she's excited about being a part of so I'm bringing her to you tonight. So Abigail, I want you to introduce yourself to the board. Tell them a little bit about yourself and why you feel this is a good opportunity for you. What do you want to do moving forward?
Okay, my name is Abigail Rick. I'm a junior at Newport High School. And I think this is an opportunity for me because I like to advocate for myself. I'm a big stickler on like advocating for yourself, and if you want something done, you need to do it yourself. You need to tell people what you want done, and I like to get it done. Like at school, we were having a discussion about homecoming, and everybody's frustrated on the date, and I was fighting really hard for it to get changed because I wanted it to be changed. So I was advocating for myself, and I was talking to my peers, and they were like, "You be a good person to advocate for the whole school. You listen to what everybody has to say, and you can feed that information to the board." I'm a competitive dancer and at dance, so I do a lot of things. I dance 4 days a week, and then I work at my dance studio. I'm involved in FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America. At the high school, I'm involved in FCCLA. I just started that this year, so that's exciting. And then I do Gateway College.
So this is your recommendation?
Yes, and we had talked before but at the time, she promised me that she could make it each night that we had our meetings, and it wouldn't be a problem. So
Okay, the only reason I was late tonight was because it was auditions at my dance studio. The rest of the night, I'll be here outside.
Any questions? Thank you. Thank you.
So, and that's before I on the team.
I did want to say one thing, what Mr. Watts was just talking about with the, incentives for the teachers, attendance, this is something that everybody's seeing all the employers are seeing this. So we were able to brag about some of the things that our school district work, if not the largest employer, one of the largest employers in the city, I think we are. So, it seems like we're really on the cutting edge of trying to retain and, provide incentives for, teachers. Here, Tony, advocating.
Yes, and so I know you'll probably keep it running this Jennifer. Working based on the money. But I agree with you, Aaron, it's an exciting time, and, we're not the only industry that's dealing with getting people to come to work and be, because people are quitting their jobs because they don't want to be in the office anymore. So they're, resigning, taking remote jobs, and getting it to people, so it is hard to get people to remote. So, but thank you for giving Mr. Watson a shout, Mr. Watson and his team a shout out for their innovative problem that is nationwide. All right, next.
All right, next up, we have the curriculum department. Okay.
Madam Chair, board members of the board. Madam Chair, members of the board, and Superintendent Watts, you have a board report from the curriculum department. Are there any questions?
No, but I really like the outline you did with the survey, how clear that was. It's very easy to read the table you did with the evaluation. About some of those answers, so it's much easier to read in that format. So thank you for doing it.
And, speaking of that, adult team session one evaluation, is this everybody in the session that answered, is this every evaluation?
We had, yes, 85 responses total across the district.
Like everybody was happy with it, most everybody.
Yeah, you know, we're trying to do somewhat. Good board though. So, a lot of very satisfied, very good comments. Very good.
Thank you.
Can you talk just a little bit about the,
Sure. So session one was on September the 20th, and again, it's around our pillar work of post-responsive teaching and learning. It's one of our 4. The session title, again, was Retraining Our Brain and Understanding the Bias in Culture. And just kind of a summary of the overall topic was one way that students are advantaged and disadvantaged in the classroom through the cultural archetypes. And then we looked at our participants, having the opportunity to learn about those cultural archetypes on the continuum of individualistic and collective. It provided an opportunity to explore which cultural archetypes align with cultures of our schools. And with that, there were a series of videos, discussions, and activities through simulations that the Bell team provided at each building with their staff.
I did notice the comments regarding section. You know, it seems like teachers are very appreciative of having this opportunity how to, include this in the curriculum versus having to, separate them, so giving them a comfort level how to address it. So, good. I don't have any questions.
Thank you.
Just keep up the good work.
all right, tonight Julie is gonna, fill in for Jennifer Stewart, and she's gonna talk a little bit, about the DPP report. I want you to share just a little bit and things we're doing for our lieutenants, superintendents.
So Mrs. Stewart has submitted the report for the Pupil Personnel Department, Student Services, and Federal Programs, but I do want to highlight a few items that were in our report. As of September 22nd, we are comparable to last year's enrollment. At that time, we were one student increase from what we had last school year, so we are holding our own, so to speak. As far as attendance, as Mr. Watts has already said, 95% is the district's attendance goal, and we exceeded that for attendance month one. Our intermediate school is leading our district with attendance at a 96.96%, followed by the primary school, then the high school. So part of the efforts of attendance this year is developing an MTSS system that works on attendance and attendance improvement, just like there is for academics. So with that, each school is targeted a core team, a committee of attendance group, and in turn, that assistant principal is kind of the lead of the MTSS system, and with that, interventions are put in place. So students are identified because of their attendance, and then finding what the barrier is that it's impeding their attendance. Also, we're at this time of the school year where students are still considered chronically absent. I know we've only been in school a little over a month now, but chronically absent by federal guidelines means that you miss 10% of the school days. So at the beginning of the school year, it doesn't take very many days to be at that 10%. And to be chronically absent, it doesn't matter if they're excused or unexcused. It just means that you're absent from school, so you're missing that instructional time. So those students that have been identified have received, their parents have received a letter, they have received the school calendar, they have received information on why attendance is important. And with that, also, potentially, we will be reaching out because they will be part of that MTSS system since they've already been identified. And those will be different supports that that particular child or family may need to help them improve on their attendance. Each building, too, is also competitive with one another. Our schools like to be number one and beat the other schools. So each school has their own ways of improving their school attendance within their building, and then we will continue to support that along the way. The other thing that will happen here shortly is at our high school for our grades 7 through 12, we will start our truancy diversion program. So those students that have 4.5 unexcused absences will receive a letter from the county attorney's office, their families will, to invite them to be a part of our truancy diversion program. So it's intentional on, this is what our attendance policy is, this is what is required of you, and if you show improvement, then we're not going to file truancy charges against you, because ultimately all we want is the students to be here in school so they can get their education. We want to form that partnership with our families and not be so punitive along the way. This year, we will also be starting that program with our 6th graders. We are really trying to make our 6th graders feel like they're more of a middle school student than an elementary student. So we have informed some different things that we're doing at our intermediate school to help those students be able to transition into that high school environment next week. Do you have any questions?
I'd just like to say, I think it's great that you're
Yes.
catching these things early before it becomes a pattern. Especially even with the 6th grade, because let's face it, when they get to high school, they can see that not be as good with the attendance, but it's set now, if that's what's expected. Hopefully carries over.
So at an elementary school level, typically it's the parent is the one that's charged with that. But once we get into that middle school and high school, students have ownership. We're primarily a walking district. A lot of our students have the means to be able to get themselves to school. So empowering our students, especially in that transition period of time, because ultimately they're going to be our workforce later on. And if you don't show up to work, you're not going to have the place to show up to because they're not going to. So we're trying to give those work life skill learning along the way. Thank you.
Now, the chronic absentees is that,
Yes,
is that part of this, that it was attached to?
it was attached to the report that was submitted by Mrs. Stewart. So with that, the federal government is the ones that technically define whether a student is chronically absent or not. And the main criteria is that you miss 10% of the school year. So in turn, if we only had 10 attendance days, you missed one day, you're at 10% at that point. We're at 20 days, 2%, and so forth. So as the school year progresses, then some of those students would be off of that list because we have more days of attendance to tally into that percentage. But the biggest factor for a lot of families is they don't understand that even though the absences are excused, they're still missing school, they're still missing instruction. So there's key components that they're not receiving along the way that could later lead to them struggling academically because they missed that foundational skill because they weren't in the classroom to receive that.
What I like about this report was understanding the causes.
Yes.
How the misconception, absence is only a problem they are unexcused. And then other school experiences. So, these are some of the causes, struggling academically, socially, going through lack of performance. So a lot of the barriers that we are trying to eliminate have a lot to do with absenteeism. And so I just really thought it was powerful that this report that KDE did addressed, and so the data shows that there's a lack of engagement, lack of culturally relevant, engaging curriculum, no meaningful relationship with adults in school. So, what we're doing with the BLT, the data supports that it impacts student attendance. So if I don't feel welcome because I'm different.
Correct. And bottom line, school should be a safe place for all of our students.
Right.
And with that, part of those same questions, if it is a student that is part of the attendance and system, those are the type of questions that are asked to that student or that family member.
What is that acronym? What does that stand
It's multi-tiered system of support. So just as in academics, there's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, might be terminology that you're used to. We're doing that with attendance.
All right, very good. I think this is good information. It's good to know that parents are, this is being shared with parents. They have an understanding, not only, we just don't want them here, there's a reason that they need to be here.
And what I have found in my role, one of the common things that a lot of our families and parents and caregivers and guardians have said is during COVID time, they were told one particular thing about, don't send your child to school when they have the sniffles or a cough or what have you. And now we're back to regular regulations. So they're expected to be here. Let the nurse decide if it's something that they need to be home for. We know it's allergy season right now. Is it allergies or is it something else? And that medical professional is available to our students as well as our school-based health center to receive potentially that care so that adult at home doesn't have to miss work or what have you.
And how does it work? If they see the school nurse and they are sick, is that information referred to the teacher? Do they provide notes for the excused absence if they see the
If they see the school nurse and the school nurse deems that they need to go home, then it is considered a school nurse excuse, so it's an excused absence. If, for instance, a student were to come in late to school and they did not have a note, they would have received an unexcused tardy. Then if the nurse decides that they could stay at school, then their day goes on just as usual. If for some reason that student decides that they need to go and see the nurse because they're not feeling well, that morning unexcused tardy remains. But if the nurse says, no, you need to go home because of whatever, then the rest of that day is excused.
Okay, very good, very good.
So the tardy never gets excused unless they get sick.
The tardy itself, because we have to account for them coming to school late, that won't necessarily be excused unless their parent gets some other medical note. So for instance, school at the intermediate school starts at 7:55. I didn't come to school until 8:15. That 20 minutes of that school day, I'm still tardy because I did not get here at the appropriate time. But if I end up going and seeing the nurse, and the nurse tells me I need to go home because of I have a fever or I have a stomach issue, then the rest of my day is excused. But the tardy is still there because we have to account that that student was not physically in our building during that time.
And is that law or regulation?
We have to It is just part of the state attendance
Thank you.
laws. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Mr. May, Civil Transportation.
Couple handouts for you. Madam Chair, members of the board, good evening.
Good evening.
41 is an update from Robert Hazen's office in terms of the status of our projects. Give you that. Kind of hot off the press. Came in to us yesterday afternoon. Plus, I'm giving you a copy of our energy report. Didn't include that in the upload for this month, so I apologize. All right, so the first item I want to look at is the update that I just provided to you from Emmett Hayes' office in terms of our outstanding projects. The CTE renovations at the high school, after a lot of versions of this, we've landed on one that's going to work within our budget and still provide opportunities for our students. So we're excited that we're now finally able to move on. So next month, Ms. Hoover will be bringing a BG1 approved associated with that. The stadium renovation, as you know, it's going to be down to the wire. So the crews that are there are working extremely long days. One thing that I still want to keep everyone very cautious about is the fact that there are multiple inspections that we have to pass, not only just have experienced those, but we also have to pass them as well. So that's extremely important. So I don't want to get anyone's hopes up too high in terms of the final regular season game. We are hopeful for a playoff opportunity at the stadium, but we're going to continue to be optimistic and hope for the best. So in the meantime, I do have Mr. Hunter working on things that we would need for the game, such as the restrooms and things like that. So once we get a little closer, then we'll get a better forecast. As it is stated here in the letter, right now it's about a less than 50% probability for us to have the game. And again, a lot of that's just contingent upon the inspection. So working hard. I updated you this week with pictures of progress. So it's work's going to continue to happen. So one of the inspections is going to be completed by the end of this week. We've got the electrician coming in, wiring that press box that I sent you pictures of. So hopefully that's finished this week. Fencing, the rest of the fencing will be up by probably Monday or Tuesday. So things are all falling together, but now we just got to wait for the last few hurdles to cross. At the intermediate and high school, just a couple small areas left with flooring. The primary school with the kitchen, the cafeteria renovation, that's completely finished. So we are free and clear with that, and you'll have some paperwork coming to you soon about that. The roof project at the primary school, we just did the punch list walkthrough on Tuesday of this week. Just a couple of small minor items. The roofing company did a great job, so we're confident that we'll be able to finish that one out pretty quick. Now, I did explain to them we haven't had any rain, so we actually did have a small leak today after getting some rain. So probably over the next few rain events, we'll discover a leak here or there, but they'll be great to work with to come back and take care of that. And also last week we had the pre-construction meeting for the boiler project here. So starting fall break, we're going to get really busy down in the boiler room, taking out the water boilers that are in for the intermediate school so that we can meet the timeline of winter coming. So we'll have 3 new boilers, water boilers installed for the intermediate, and that'll all be in place before it's time to flip the switch for heat. In my report, I mentioned in the transportation section that in new business tonight, I'm asking for you to surplus the 2013 15-passenger van that we have. And what's different about this surplus request is that it's for the intent to trade it in. It still has value. KDE will not let us transport students in a 15-passenger van. So right now, it's really going to sit useless. It's too nice of a vehicle, in my opinion, just to turn it over to the maintenance department. And quite honestly, from our perspective, we really won't use it that much. There'll be a few times in a year that we could use it for certain things, but overall, given the value that it still has and what we can do with that value to trade it in to buy a 9-passenger van is much more beneficial than it just becoming another maintenance vehicle in the fleet. So what we're wanting to do is, KD still allows us to transport students in 9-passenger vans, but not 15. So we, through grant funds, we want to purchase a 9-passenger vehicle, and this just gives us a little more buying power. So tonight in new business, I'm asking for to surplus it, but with the intent to trade it in. And we spoke to Brandon about that, and he's confident and comfortable with that. So it's a little different than what we've normally done.
Is that a new KD rule?
It's been around for a while, but they've been hitting it hard. A lot of districts have abused it. We actually removed the seats so that it wasn't ever really an issue. But just the fact that it's classified as that, it's not worth us getting in trouble. And obviously not worth us getting anyone hurt or anything like that, of course. So we're gonna follow the rules and do what we need to do.
A little bit.
Yes. But we'll still get some bids. We're gonna check multiple dealerships to make sure we're getting a good price on whatever we land on. To be honest, it's really hard to find a 9-passenger van. So we're gonna try all the major dealerships around us, whatever ways we can, just to see what's out there. Whether it's a Dodge, a Chevy, a Ford, doesn't matter. Just as long as it's gonna be, dependable and worth us having. Let's see. Do you have any questions about anything else I've included in my report or anything in general?
What's the trading value you think?
Well, probably about $10,000. We did the Blue Book, Kelly Blue Book on it, and probably about 10,000. So
With regard to the other vehicles we have in our fleet for transportation of students, we have large SUV, what other?
we have a minivan, and that holds 5 students. And we don't like to put any students ever in the front seat. So when I say 5, it's just 5 in the rear seats. So 5 for the minivan and 6 for the Suburban.
And those are the only 2 transport vehicles.
Right now, yes.
And what are those primarily used for?
Right now, McKinney-Vento is using the minivan, and then also we use the Suburban for the young scholars that go to NKU. There's actually 6 of them, so we have to swap out in the middle of the day when we transport them so that we can use the Suburban just for seating capacity. So it's used quite a bit with our transporting the McKinney-Vento students morning and afternoon. And then also there are some school business trips that are used. Staff will use those vehicles for that. We had one Tuesday for students competing in something in Cincinnati, so it's used then.
And we do include the trade-in, for example, if van costs $45,000, you can't say, oh, the trade. We count the trade-in as well. There's been entities that have gotten issues with that, they consider trade not purchase.
Thank you.
I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
So the high school, the homecoming game did get moved. Is that correct? It says that in this Hayes and Associates, it says we were notified that the football game was moved from October 15th to October 12th.
Yes, the football game. That's not homecoming. No. So, yeah, so we actually lost today in the process. So when I contacted Mr. Hunter, as we're coming down to the wire, for whatever reason, we're playing Bellevue, and for whatever reason, it got switched to Thursday, October 12th.
They're short reps.
That's, yeah.
So what I've heard anyway, that most teams had to do a Thursday night game because they're just short referees.
So it really won't impact us that it moved up a day, in the fact that, Bellevue has requested that a drop dead date in terms of when we have to tell them whether we're gonna be ready or not. And that date's October 4th. So and that's fair to them, they have things that they obviously need to plan for an event like that, so we don't wanna go to them on the 10th and say, hey, yeah, we wanna do it now. So I think it's fair for them to have a week's notice So if we're not 100% on October 4th, I'm not going to reach out and say, and hope that we will be ready. I'm just going to let them know based upon where we are that day, yes or no. And chances are it'll probably be no. I hate to say that, but we need a lot of things to fall in place for that.
In those final two games, Dayton is at Dayton High School. October 27th is at Holy Cross Thomas More.
And apparently that was already an away game. You know that was? I think it was already scheduled as an away game. It was never our home game. Okay. So, that has to come into play as well. It'd be nice if somebody wants to give up their game, but for a lot of schools, that's a big money raising event for them. But I think at the beginning of the season, when the schedule was created, there was some optimism in trying to work in a couple of home games. But this is where we're at.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Next up, we have,
Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Mr. Watt, you have our report. Do you have any questions?
It seems like our numbers went down for special education. It used to be over 200. So we categorized or,
No, no, we still calculate the same as student enrollment for eligibility of students that qualifies for services. For the past 3 years, we have hovered anywhere between 195 to 240.
okay.
So that is just our range of eligibility. Every month it fluctuates, given some students transitioning to our district and transitioning to another school.
Thank you for the report. Do you have, anybody else have any questions for me? Well, thank you. That's it for the student services, learning and support services. There's nothing under old business. New business, we have a few items to consider to vote on tonight. Personnel report, anybody have any questions regarding the personnel report? Any questions for Jennifer regarding the working budget?
I have a question. With regard to House Bill 563 students, that are coming from other districts, where would the, and I'm sorry, I probably wouldn't be asking this, but it's not, so if a student comes from, let's say, Erlanger in our district, where are those funds captured? So it does just fall in.
are you referring to that in the
No.
Oh, but it does, that city policy doesn't have the, thing as well. So if you get your seat money, plus Southgate is compensating us money for the special ed kids. But they do become our student, that school year, they become our student.
And a bit like the paper, general fund, and expenses, percentage, that each fund contributes to our general fund. Thank you so much for that. Well, that's exactly what we have to talk about. You know, identifying expenses.
Munis report is.
Yeah.
You know,
But that was, thank you for that. Any questions regarding consent agenda items before we take action? Most of these things we talked about in the planning meeting. Section. I think we're good with it. So if everybody's good, I need a motion to approve consent, need a motion to add approving our board member Abigail
Rubric,
rubric.
How do you spell that?
RUBRIGHT.
To add approval of our student board member to the board.
Motion to approve to add Abigail Wright to, into the new business.
Second. All right, it's been moved in second. Now I need a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 11. It's been moved in second, all in favor? Very good. Board comments. We need to set the next foundation meeting. I've talked to a couple of you about, some things we'd like to get done. But we have a meeting with the other 2 board members. And that's been a little challenging. So, like, to, get a couple of dates, you all, see, now, why didn't we do the work session this fall or?
All right, and that was the question too.
Yeah.
Do we need to meet next week?
So, I guess, with the end of the year, Tony is an insert, the last week of October, that's when we moved the meeting to 18, the third Wednesday versus fourth Wednesday. But, for the Newport Education Foundation, we wouldn't be here, so we could have that meeting on that fourth. The foundation being the fourth Wednesday. So, can you reach out to Jack and T to see if that date works for them?
And should we set an alternative one too, just in case?
Yes.
What if we did it, dude?
Are you here during the fall break? There was some of the staff traveling during the fall break. Are you available for the fall break?
Yeah, we have, I need to be.
No, let's not do that, let's not do that.
I can be if I need to be.
Not November 1.
I'm good with that. Okay. So 2 days, either October 25th and November 1st. All right, very good, very good. And then the reason I had to bring up the work session, I did not be able to make it. I have traveling for mediation, so I won't be able to attend this work session when we set it. So I leave it open to you all. If you want
One next week.
October,
Next week.
next week. So do we need to have a meeting? Do you all have anything pressing that, because the purpose of those meetings is so that if there's something that the board needs to take action on the 15th, we have time to discuss and ask questions. So do you all know of anything that,
Well, we don't know anything right now. Team.
so it's up to you all? Do we still need to have a meeting on the fourth?
It's up to Mr. Watts.
I mean, we,
It's all
right,
me.
today we don't have anything, we need to run by you. So, don't.
Is there anything the board wants to have a meeting? You want to have, revisit, you can still use that time to do that, otherwise we can just. Okay. All right, so, we will not have the October 14th. And we will have our regular meeting on the 18th at 6. I think that's it.
So Newport Foundation is still set for the 25th?
No, Newport Foundation, we're looking at, dates we're looking at is, October 25th.
We usually do those at 6 or 6:30.
6:30. Unless Ms. Covington can be here at 6. That's all it's on her. She has to wait for parents to pick up. She doesn't control the time. Yes.
Today, NBA meeting, Tom Bedulli Senior, who is the director of Newport Housing Authority, if Tony or I could appoint someone to the, what's the board?
The,
So,
Yeah, we can talk. I think that would be good, because, if any of our students have graduate intelligence situation, with communication with the children, we would want to be able to know how it works, being on the board gives us insight, gives us information, that may help our students or their families.
he said that traditionally they had superintendent of schools on that board, or designee, superintendent. NKU, there's someone from NKU on the board. I believe he said there's someone for technical college on the board as well, so it would be good to have representation.
All right, Mr. Watts, let's have a conversation about that.
well, it can't be me because
We know.
I'm on so many right now.
We
But,
don't know.
yeah.
We don't want to.
Yeah. I'm gonna talk
And
to my team Monday, but
Okay.
if
You want something done, ask a busy person.
All right, well, it's just for you to have a conversation, because we are aware of the demands of you and your team. I want to keep that in mind. Do you know how often they meet and when they meet?
I assume it's probably at least either once a month or once a quarter.
I can find that out.
Find out.
What's the expectation?
And maybe it can be an alternate. Same person goes, you know, you can rotate the meetings, because the goal is to have someone from the school there. That way it's not a burden to one person. Rotate that, have a representation there, get the information. Because I think that's how Donna and Molly did when it came to review. You know, they rotate the representation.
I do think it's important that someone who is familiar with the operation, you know, the nitty gritty details, someone maybe like Jennifer Stewart.
Leadership. And not just one person. I noticed that on that DEP report, there was a lot of community involvement. So on the Brisket report, it's amazing the relationship we have with so many entities in the community. That a lot of times people are not aware of the relationships we have with the different organizations in the community and how much they help our students and our families. So I think I love that. It's very good. We used to thank our business partners. I think we need to maybe consider doing that again, thanking some of our business partners. Let them know we appreciate it. I think Paul interrupted that, but we'd like to get that back on the agenda as we start. So
I've actually challenged all of our students, members of our team to get more community involvement. Because if we can continue to build those partnerships, then our community knows what Newport Schools is all about, and our students are the future of our community. And so we all have to work in partnership together so that we can have our students reach their fullest potential and our community grow and enhance to reach its fullest potential. So we are hoping this school year to have an increase in some of those partnerships that we have, be able to provide more services to our students in our classroom settings and even some other programs.
and our goal was, it was like an outstanding partnership. So you all can, start looking at some of your partners, the ones who are showing up the most. So, so you develop some type of criteria as to who's recognized as the outstanding partner. And, make a recommendation to Mr. Watson. We recognize them at board meetings, give them a ribbon and thank them for their services. And the partners that we did that to were very grateful for the recognition. So, I'd like to resume that practice. All right. There's no more comments. I need a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Take a picture of it back together before you go.
Yes.
Thank you.